just this week, Russia bombed an American-owned factory near the Hungarian border. I've spoken to people who frankly see that as a slap in the face to President Trump, to the entire peace process, isn't it?
Well, I would say that those who are sincerely interested in understanding what is going on should know by now that never ever Russia deliberately targeted any sites which are not linked to military abilities of Ukraine.
Well, hello, that's me again. Today is Sunday, August 24, 2025, and well, I'm coming to you because obviously of the very important statements made by Sergei Lavrov, the Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation, speaking to the NBC. I don't know why actually Lavrov or anybody in Russian government even bothers talking to some backwater, boomer brainwashing channel, but it is what it is. And so, as you can see yourself, my thesis about the fact that most people who work in the Western and in general, and American in particular, establishment media are morons. I mean, they are morons. The people have no abilities to have any kind of the independent thought. And so, as you saw yourself, Lavrov just have to say things, you know, and you can go out there and listen this on the NBC channels, YouTube NBC channel, this interview, and it yet to be seen that if they didn't edit something out of it, because this is the only thing they are good at, is to just create lies. But it's very interesting, and what I want to do is I want to go over some points which Sergei Lavrov made, and the way it is being reported in Russian media, of course, and it is very important. That's why I actually decided to give you the, so to speak, the end of the weekend update. And yeah, let's start with the, as you can see yourself, this is the way you go to watch NBC News interview with Mr. Lavrov. It's 53 minutes, and it's called Russia's Lavrov says Putin wants peace, even as strikes on Ukraine ramp up. Full interview. Okay, let's hope that it is full interview. So what happens here is this. Mr. Lavrov, speaking to NBC, he made some very interesting and very crucial, I would say, statements. And one of them is that, that's pretty much covers it all, over. Lavrov confirmed Russia's intention to eliminate all threats from the territory of Ukraine. And the goals of the special military operation in Ukraine will be achieved, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in an interview with NBC, as RIA News reported. Lavrov stressed that Russia intends to eliminate any threats to its security emanating from the territory of Ukraine, as well as to protect the rights of ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking citizens who feel belonging to Russian culture and history. And you will say, okay, what is that? I mean, you heard it before. We spoke about it on so many occasions. I stressed it so many times. And other people in the circle of the alternative media and people who are not necessarily Russophiles, but people who want to see things objectively, they were talking about this non-stop. In fact is, if you listen attentively to this very secret general, well, he's not really secret, but I mean, he's the actually first deputy of the chief of the general staff of Russian Defense Ministry, Russian Armed Forces, rather, of Valery Gerasimov, we're talking about General Rudskoy, the chief of this mighty GO, Главное оперативное управление, main chief operational directorate. These are the guys who actually prosecute the war and plan it. And he already stated in 2022 very clearly that the demilitarization and denazification. That means denazification. Listen attentively again what Lavrov states, and this has to be understood very clearly. As Lavrov states about Zelensky, here it is. Look at this. Lavrov said who Russia considers Zelensky to be. Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready to hold a meeting with Vladimir Zelensky if the presidential agenda is really discussed at it, which of course we know it will not. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, according to Lavrov, Russia recognizes Zelensky as he is de facto head of the regime, but does not consider him a legitimate person to sign legal documents. And that pretty much describes to you the framework. And again, listen, Russian diplomats are really good at diplomacy, and sometimes diplomacy goes under the different name. And it is, of course, pulling the tomcat by the gonads and to make sure that the opposite side understands the military political reality. You see, military-political. They are more important, military in this particular case, than even political, because what is happening on the line of the combat contact defines everything. And Russians are not in rush, and as we already know, the grinder or slaughter of the remnants of the armed forces of Ukraine continues. And if you take a look today at the today's tally, you can see yourself that we have it's every day pretty much the same number as reported by Russian Defense Ministry. It's actually yesterday, and what can I say? I mean, Russians will continue until no Ukrainian soldier remains. And if we go and take a look at the map by our good friend Marat Khairulin and Colonel Popov, so this is the yesterday's situation at the Kupiansk area. As you can see yourself, Kupiansk is essentially surrounded, and very active line of combat contact, and all those flags with they show the separate motor rifle brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine and things of this nature. You have to keep in mind those are not full-blown brigades anymore. Some of those so-called brigades, they basically contain the third, even lower number of required soldiers by the table of organization and equipment, or rather Orgshtatное расписание. This is what Russian term is for that. So they are not full brigades. It's just the throwing whatever the remnants they have along the line of combat, and they're being annihilated. They try to sometimes go and counterattack. As the result, counterattacks end up really badly. And what can I say? That they, evidently those people who planned that, they don't care about how many Ukrainian soldiers die, but we already know the number. At least 1.8 million KIAs killed. And then I don't know how many wounded. And again, just if you are willing to, have a very interesting experience, go and look up the videos of those military cemeteries in Ukraine. It's an astounding, basically, experience, if you wish, to see, the rows and files and ranks, what have you, buried in the Ukrainian land, which celebrates today, actually, the 34th anniversary of the independence. So, well, guess what? So, of course, there are some, celebrations, if you wish. And here we have this moron, this, good lord, Mr. Kellogg. So the guy who Russians do not even treat seriously as any kind of the military capable man, but he received some kind of the Ukrainian award, and I'm sure he will cherish it for the rest of his days. But when we speak about the situation with Zelensky being de facto, which he is de facto, not de jure, the head of this regime, which will be annihilated, we have to remember this. Remember, let me get you back to the 1945, and This is Field Marshal Cato. And this is the News Chronicles, whatever it was, the many, British and American news papers published at that time. And so, as you can see yourself, this is May 11th, 1945. And this is because it's, it was signed actually on May 9th. But as you can see yourself, the last act, Cato signs unconditional surrender in the ruins of Berlin. So, yeah, Tether was there to represent Britain. Obviously, it was done under the supervision of Marshal Zhukov and other Russian officers, Soviet, rather, Red Army officers. And yeah, who was Cato? He was all many things, including the chief of the general staff of the of Nazis and Wehrmacht. And so, in this case, he is de facto at that time was what have you, the chief of the, if you wish, of the regime, because Hitler obviously committed suicide, and the whole top of the Nazi top was essentially killed or committed suicide. So he signed it, but obviously today it's a little bit more complicated, but you saw yourself, you don't have to be necessarily in real political power to sign something which is obviously unconditional surrender. But here comes this most important point that Mr. Lavrov stated very clearly, we are not for the territories there. Russians do not want command this bunch of the whatever fanatic Russophones, or well, they more than just Russophobes, they hate Russia. But it will be demilitarized. Ukraine will have no real army. Ukraine will have no real industry, which is happening right now. Russia is denying Ukraine any kind of industry, and the Russophone population will be protected. This is not to say that very many of those Russophone people really want to go to Russia or be the part of Russia. Russians recognize this, and this is what I've been speaking about non-stop when I stated then, and I will repeat it again, that you have about 19 million people there, most of who they do not like Russians, even when they are ethnically Russians, but they are brainwashed so much with the propaganda from Ukrainian side for the last 34 years that, of course, yeah, they are, well, how to say it, it's like, and I constantly draw analogy whenever I have all kinds of people trying to use the simple life experiences and apply them to the national or international relations. Yeah, it's all fine. We are the same family. This is the thing which Vladimir Putin repeated recently again after a very long break, that yeah, we're kind of brotherly people, but it's a tragedy for us, but, what but? If you have your uncle who is a serial killer and rapist, is he your relative? I'm just saying. Yes, of course he is. He never stopped being. You are tied by the blood. But do you like the guy? Do you love him? If you do, then you have to have your head checked, or basically, you know what? You are probably next in line to commit the same things if you continue to love him. But in reality, any normal family, they will be abhorred and appalled by this type of the activity of, again, I'm using uncle as one of the examples. And they will obviously, well, they will reject him. They will say that he is not our relative anymore. We do not want to deal with anybody who is the serial killer, serial rapist. Same here. Same here. And that is why people sometimes, emphasize them some words or phrases, well, too much, without understanding the context in which it was all stated. And you saw yourself that there is this bimbo from NBC. She tried to also, try to catch Lavrov. I mean, she is nobody. She's a kindergarten compared, to Mike Tyson at the peak of his form. So these cretins from US media, they still think that they can go toe-to-toe to people like Lavrov. You cannot change. They are stupid. Well, Mr. Rubio, however, on the 34th anniversary of the independence of Ukraine, he, plays this, statement, which is, of course, Ukraine National Day. So, today, on behalf of the United States of America, I congratulate the people of Ukraine as you commemorate your 34th Independence Day. The United States is committed to Ukraine's future as an independent nation. We believe in a negotiated settlement that upholds Ukrainian sovereignty and guarantees peace, its long-term security, leading to durable peace. Sure, yeah, these are all those platitudes and general words which you would expect from any kind of the diplomats or politicians who obviously hold their cards close to themselves. And yeah, Rubio stated all correct words, but the problem is, of course, Ukraine as the viable state is done. So obviously, again, as Mr. Lavrov stated, that Russia is not for the territorial gains there, which is correct, but Russia is in there, and that was pretty much described for this stupid bimbo from NBC, that, well, the political process will be pushed in such a way that eventually the dissolution of Ukraine will happen inevitably, especially with the Novorossiya and or Malorossia, what it used to be called, I mean, in Catherine the Great times, and what can I say? They will eventually, well, dissolve the country. It will become essentially confederation, and then essentially those traditional Russian areas will probably, you know, what, separate peacefully, and then will be absorbed by Russia on the fully, you know, legitimate judicial, you know, what, basis. And that's for those people who constantly state that, oh, Russians need to go and get Odessa. Can Russians do that? Yes, they can. Will they? I don't know. But do Russians need, again, as I already stated, putting all those people on their balance? No, absolutely not. Those are not, well, they're maybe relatives, but they are those proverbial uncles, which I just described to you, who were in the rape, pillage, and essentially Nazi regime. I'm sorry, this is the reality. And this is what essentially Lavrov's discussion comes down to. And after Rubio congratulated them, what can I say? They're butthurt, and you know what, situation which is happening in the West, of course, it's reaching the fever pitch. But before I go, I want to stress again, I spoke about it before, I will continue to speak about it non-stop. And here's Larry Johnson, our good friend, speaking about it, writing rather, a couple days ago. It's actually yesterday. And he writes again, guess what? We're going to be on it constantly. He said the sad state of US-based Russian scholars. And that's the problem which Larry correctly points out, how actually degenerated all this field of all those CIA analysts, all those, you know, academicians allegedly who are Russian scholars who do not understand the first thing about anything. And they obviously do not understand Russian culture. They do not understand Russian mindset, despite the fact that they continue to pretend that they do. They don't. And I've been on it for so many times. I will continue to be on it. And here is what I want to show you. This is how, for example, British public opinion is shaped by this, well, how to put it? Well, it's the Telegraph. It's the thing which is, yeah, I do not want you to even, I wouldn't suggest you to use it even as the, you know, toilet paper of the last resort during the crisis times, because you're going to get the brain cancer anally just from using it. But here we have this thing. Look at this. This is, I mean, it's filled with hatred. It's filled with the desperation, the foaming at the mouth. Yeah, Putin rebels in Western community. We need to crush his confidence. Putin does not revel in Western timidity. Russians wrote Europe off completely, and they know that it is impotent. It is impotent industrially, militarily, and politically, and intellectually. It's degenerate, essentially. And this opinion piece is written by Peter Pomerantsev, one of those so-called Russian scholars. Let's take a look at who Peter Pomerantsev is. Oh my God, these are the mainstay of actually Russian scholars, so to speak, in the West, not only in Great Britain or United Kingdom. It is also obviously the case or in the, United States. People like that, with, you know, bar some few exceptions, like late, obviously, Professor Stephen Cohen, who was generally a man well versed in the in Russia studies, if you wish. So here we have Peter Pomerantsev. Petr Igorovich Pomerantsev is a Ukrainian-born British journalist, author, and TV producer. So he is a senior fellow on those stupid Institute of Global Affairs in the London School of Economics, which is a collection of the imbeciles. And when they get good old, boys getting their degrees in the soft sciences, so to speak. And so, biography. He was born into Russian-speaking Jewish family in Kiev, Ukraine in 1977. So, well, he is a Zionist, he is classic, and he is one of those Jewish refuseniks, if you wish, who are still settling accounts with Russia and Russians. So he naturally hates Russians. And Pomerantsev attended Westminster School in London and the European School in Munich. He studied English literature and German at the University of Edinburgh. So basically, yeah, he is, well, not educated really, but he is nothing more than so-called journalist. He's not journalist, he is a propaganda shill who sells his knowledge of Russian language and the fact that he was born in Ukraine as some kind of the claim to the, the understanding Russia. He is not. He is downright propagandist and shill who he wouldn't have the guts even to discuss anybody serious in Russia about on any issue pertaining the real tangible things related to geopolitics, economics, military, and things of this nature. They simply do not know. But he is this venerated class of the imbeciles and cretins, basically, who are, for the most part, media class in the West today. Fact is, as I already stated before, it is also true very much for Russian media. This what media are. They are the fourth estate of the morons. They are those proverbial H.L. Mencken's morons with the PhDs, because PhD in journalism is essentially something like on the level of the vocational school. And, well, I would say that the guy who goes into gets his vocational school degree, which is associate degree, for example, in the industrial production, advanced industrial manufacturing, he or she, those people have way more value for the society than the bunch of the nincompoops and essentially propagandists who run around and sublimate their pathetic complexes of inferiority and feelings, because they don't have any serious academic or life experiences background, into all kinds of BS, which we know as the modern media. This is who they are. And here is another result of this. I will demonstrate it to you right now. Oh my God, suddenly, everybody just runs and starts, saying, look at this, something happens. Well, okay, yeah, sure. Wall Street Journal reports, that's another bunch of cretins there. So, U.S. approved sale of cruise missiles to Ukraine, Wall Street Journal. The U.S. has approved the sale of 3,350 air-launched ERAM cruise missiles to Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reported on Saturday, citing two unnamed U.S. officials. Well, you have to understand, average military expert in Wall Street Journal, CNN, or whatever, they are morons. I mean, and again, even those who actually were like Mr. Kellogg or whatever, the King or what have you, they are clowns, essentially. They do not understand what they are talking about. They are there only to push the agenda. So, sensational? No. So the munition, which have a range of up to 280 miles, will reportedly arrive in Ukraine within 6 weeks. Several U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal that Ukraine would have to seek the Pentagon's approval when using them. Okay, sure. The problem is, of course, as they present what this extended range, whatever the hell is it. It's a Frankenstein weapon. As you can see yourself, they are try to air to earth. I like, obviously, it's a funny translation from the I don't know what kind of language, but here we have origin USA, US Air Force, speed 760 kilometers per hour. Yeah, it's Mach 0.6. It is slow, and it is allegedly have to be launched from fighters, air-launched ground attack munition, which is the standard. It is standard target for all Russian air defense complexes, and it's not even the type of the weapon which can compare to something like genuine cruise missiles, which are, of course, Storm Shadow Scalp missiles. So yeah, another sensation. And of course, the funniest thing about this so-called ERAM is the fact that the development of this thing started in 2024. Okay, so if they developed anything good within this year, well, I have a bridge to sell you. But sure, let them. Obviously, Russians already love that. They will be able to produce 3,000 of this. No, they will not be. But okay, it's all this, propaganda and butthurt, originating from the primarily U.S. media and all kinds of those factions which infest the White House and Trump administration, which some want to essentially that what Trump stated, just I'm getting the hell out of the way. And those who are like neocons and those war hawks who do not understand what real war is. Again, Pentagon doesn't understand it. And so they think that somehow it's gonna change anything. No, it's merely gonna, bring about more destruction to Ukraine and probably more territories, not that Russians really need them. And again, as I already stated, this is the standard munition or rather target for Russian air defense complexes, and this is the thing which, for example, American military cannot grasp. I'm sorry to say this. This has nothing to do with Russian rah-rah, but United States never operated in the capabilities and the framework of capabilities of the air defense which Russians operate in. It's just simply different universe in terms of the capability, combat effectiveness, and to the point that as it was reported, and I know it for sure, Russian media, actually the number of Russian air defense complexes shut down those Patriot missiles which were aiming at Russian Air Force operating in the area. And there were a number of occasions of this, and that tells you something for you to understand, that Russians have no problem shooting down supersonic and now hypersonic targets, which of course the United States doesn't have. And when we have this some munition slow, which is gliding essentially, which has a little bit of booster than whatever that is, and they think that it's a cruise missile. It's not. It's a Frankenstein weapon which will not do much damage. And especially when we go and look attentively at the conditions which were put on the use of this whatever that is, ERAM thing, under the orders from Pentagon. Good luck. So, but again, they needed to do something which, basically give the present for these fanatics in Kiev to, celebrate during their 34th Independence Day, whatever. So it is just absolutely ridiculous. And so that is why, talking about all the situation with the, special military operation and listening to this so-called oh my God, so-called Russia's scholars and Russian specialists, they are not. None of them. They do not understand actually what strategy is. And when you talk about the guys who supposedly with the, who graduated London School of Economics and with degree in journalism, they are morons. They have no value for the society. The only thing they know is how to be as people and settle their personal, distill their personal feelings. Which, of course, if you look attentively at the Western Zionists and all these kinds of types of who were basically, who immigrated to the Western countries, there are no real experts there in anything, let alone in military, let alone strategy, and let alone in operational art. Some people love, obviously, explosions. Sure, it's fine. Tactics is fine. You need to be tactically have a very good tactical acumen, so to speak. But here we are, and that will continue. And that is why United States and combined West cannot win a freaking war, except for Brits. Actually, give them the credit where the credit is due. They did fight at Falklands, and I know there will be now a bunch of Argentinian people who will say, no, those are Malvinas. No, well, guys, just leave it like that. United Kingdom defended its territory, which was populated at that time by primarily English-speaking people. Yes, they did, gain the victory there, no doubt about it. Granted, they have been blooded pretty badly by Argentinians, and Argentinians, especially their high-level type people in terms of Air Force, and they fought bravely. So, and but other than that, So this is what happens when you have that kind of Russia experts and people who shape the public opinion in the West, which is only to hate Russians. And Russia said, we had enough, go, pound sand. And this is why Europe has no future, and we know that she doesn't have any future. And some people from Europe write to me that you are pretty much correct. And yeah, I have my own insights into the fate of Europe, and yeah, doesn't matter. And in terms of United States producing 3,300 ERAMs, good luck with that. But we'll see. That will be very interesting how yet another American weapon will be humiliated and paraded around the world as, basically designed to fight the third world crap holes. So this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And have the nice rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.